Hello, everyone. Shalom, and welcome to our show tonight. I have Tom and David Ben Shul with me. David Ben Shul with www.utom.org. And I have Tom, our Today with Tom. I like saying that all the time. So we have us together, and we're fixing to do a great show on the serpent in the garden. And David's fixing to get the serpent started real fast. So we will be right back right after this. I always want to dance with that song when it comes on. It's so cool. But welcome all, David. Welcome, Tom. Welcome. Brief introduction. We know who y'all are, but go ahead and tell us who you are again. David, go ahead.
My name.
Oh, me? I'm starting? Okay.
We're gonna go with the child first, Tom.
Oh yeah, that's right.
That's right. I'm the youngling here.
youngster.
Yes. Yeah. You're my seniors.
That's right.
Well, we're going to be talking about the serpent today. And
L'chaim.
Yes, I'm David Ben Shul from utom.org, and I'm going to down one. Salute. L'chaim.
L'chaim.
Tom, who are you?
Hey, that's a good question. I've still been trying to find that out. But God's working on it along with you guys.
Right. Well, he's got a long work with me.
Yeah, I'm Tom. I'm up in the north, and if you like my hat, just send me a message. I'm supposed to get another one, but we'll see how that fits.
It's coming.
So,
coming.
Yeah. I know it's coming. So. Yeah.
We want to welcome everyone to the show. And again, what we all three of us agree with is we are not here to tell you what to believe. We're not here to tell you that we have all the truth, although Tom obviously does. He's just very humble and does not share it with the rest of us. But we are not here to tell you what to believe. We are not here to in any way to dictate that we have all the truth. We are three seekers, three different journeys, and with a lot of commonality between us. And the most commonality is to leave the box and grow as you can, but don't leave the box if you're not ready, because atheism to me it's really a dead end to get to a point to where you have no belief in God whatsoever. So in starting that, tonight's show is going to be great. David and I have actually done a show close to this on original sin. But tonight we're going to talk about that silly little serpent, that little silly serpent that Christianity and normative Judaism have perverted. And we're going to try to give you some ideas, give you some maybe some thoughts that you've not had before about the importance of what actually happened in the garden. I mean, we know that normative, and to set the stage up, we all know the story. Adam was in the garden, put him to sleep according to the story, and made a woman out of the rib. That's a blessing, right? And
they never said he woke up. They never said he woke up.
He didn't. We're still asleep. But anyway,
still asleep.
He, we know the whole story about you can eat anything except from this tree right here, and if you eat from this tree, you're going to surely die. And we know this crazy little snake humanoid thing with legs walked up and tempted, and then Eve ate, and then we're all doomed to hell. And if we don't have somebody die for us because Eve messed up, we are going to hell. And that is basically the short story that we all know today. Yeah. Go ahead.
There is, in the Hebrew, it says that he went up into Eve and smelled her hair.
Now, is that the president or
joke.
Is that the snake?
Oh, this is getting good.
That was good, David. That was good.
Yeah. Go, Brandon. Anyway.
Go, Brandon. Now we'll get banned for that, but go ahead. That's the traditional story right there. Is that we had this garden, and this is where original sin, the thought of original sin comes from.
Yeah.
And everything bad happens here. But David, a few years ago, probably about 7 or 8 years ago, I was talking to David, and he came up with this craziest story I've ever heard in my life. And I listened to him, and I got off the phone. And I said, he's crazy as hell. And I thought about it for a while. I'm like, he has just basically tore everything that I have believed about this situation. And worst of all, he took the woman and made her a hero instead of the victim, which I needed her to be. Just playing with that, women. Don't get mad. But what I'm saying is when he told me the story, it was hard for me to digest. But as I started looking into some Kabbalistic texts and some Gnostic texts and little Hasidic texts and everything, it became very, very normal. And David, I'm going to let you set this stage. Tom, whenever you want to come in, do this, jump up and down or something like that. But I'm going to let David go in here and let him share the story of probably what really happened in the garden.
Yes, I'd be happy to do that. So let's try to go. We should incorporate all three chapters, chapter
Right.
1, 2, and 3.
Right.
But I'll do it quickly. In the first chapter, the creator Elohim is trying to literally push creation to existence. And part of the effort is day 6, where he says, let make man after our image. And that's Elohim who's speaking, because Elohim is a plural word. So Elohim is creating man in its image. Now, what exactly does that mean? Well, we know from reading the text that there are 10 voices speaking within the first 6 days of creation. And these 10 voices represents attributes of the creator that are imbued into creation. It's like it's part of the DNA of creation. So we are literally in the image of the creator. Then in chapter 2, Yud-Heh-Vav-Heh shows up, and that's creating a relationship between man and the creator. It's creating and it's the soul. We see the descent of a soul going from the very top down, and in chapter 2. In chapter 3, we finally had the serpent present. Now, the serpent presents itself before the male and female became flesh. So, what was this critter? Well, this critter was trying to confuse and beguile Eve. Now, Eve tells the Lord, he beguiled me. But what's interesting, when you read the text, it almost sounds like she's saying he tried. And you have to ask yourself, what was he after? Because Adam and Eve were not flesh yet. We weren't flesh. So what was it after? Well, there's a clue. He was cursed to crawl on his belly and eat dust. That's about the soul. The serpent came in trying to take the soul of man. He was trying to become the new Adam. Now, it's interesting that certain religious beliefs try to say that this thing is a new Adam, which is kind of interesting to parallel there. So we see that that the serpent was after the soul of mankind, and it failed. It failed. Why? Because Eve had Adam eat that fruit. And what is that fruit? Well, like I said, in chapter 2, the soul was coming down. So, and I'm giving a real shortened version because I figure we can fill this up as we go along. So, don't be afraid to ask questions on this. But the soul, which was a universal soul, now could be split up, and every person gets a piece of that image of the Creator within it. So our salvation is already complete. It's just our physical salvation is not complete yet, because we live in a world of pain, right, and pain and suffering. Until that's remedied, we still, even King David talked about being saved, but his salvation was a physical salvation, an emotional salvation. It was not a spiritual salvation, because he knew we already had it. So it changes the whole scope of things, that we are actually saved already. We don't need salvation. It's just physical salvation, something different that we didn't have before. So I'm going to stop there, Mike, and then we can just go wherever you want to take it.
Sure. Tom, you got anything you want to say there?
How am I supposed to follow that one?
You're the elder.
You're the elder.
That's right. I'm the old guy here. Well, old guys, they tell stories. So I've got a couple of stories to tell you. And
Tell me.
I'm sure it'll fit in here someplace. When I was growing up.
That's all they have left are stories.
That's right. When I was
Old
growing
men
up,
will
back
dream
during the,
dreams. Remember that.
Yes. Good.
back during the Civil War,
Oh my.
actually, when I was
The
when
Roman
actually I
Civil
was
War?
oh, you guys, come on, you're stealing my thunder now.
Oh.
Anyways, I remember my mom saying, whatever you do, Tom, do not touch that hot stove because you're going to burn yourself. And I'm thinking, she should have never told me that, because I had to touch it then. I had to do it. And I'm thinking of that whenever you place the, well, you shouldn't do this and you shouldn't do that. I don't know about you guys, but there's always the temptation within that says, well, I wonder why. I wonder what that means. What's it going to feel like? Is it going to be good? Is it going to be bad? That kind of a thing. And so I've been kind of a rebel preacher. When someone tells me not to do something in the past, of course, I would just, screw you. I'm going to do it anyways.
Right.
And
right.
So that's one story. That's my theology of the serpent and all that.
Oh boy, there's more than one story. Okay.
Oh, here. Yeah, this is the good one. And I have a really good friend of mine. He said to me, doggone it, I want to find out who this serpent is. I want to find out who this devil is. And he says, I'm mad at him. I'm really mad. He says, I'm gonna. I went into my gun case and I pulled out an AK-47. I went way out in the woods and I said, we're gonna have it out now. And so he was out there. He says, I was out there all dang day, he said. And he said, he was a no-show. And so he went back home, put his gun back in the case, and he's wondering what the heck ever happened to him. And he looked in the mirror, and there he was.
Ooh.
Ooh.
In saying that, I remember I took a Holocaust class from an Auschwitz survivor in college, and we asked a question. Said, "How could people do this to each other, or how can people do this to another person?" And he says, "Well, just search inside of yourself." So I took that challenge, and I sat back and I started thinking about being a guard, and I realized it didn't take me long that I had the capability just like anybody else.
Right.
And you're right. Look in the mirror. That's where the serpent is.
Well, David, our response is Tom. Tom, are you done with your two stories? Or you got another one?
I don't think you guys could handle anymore, so I'll stop for now.
Save it. But
that's an example of salvation, right there.
No more.
I need more.
David.
I need more.
Thanks, David. I barely like you.
And less now, right, Tom? But the thing is when you think of the story, we give atheism and skeptics so much ammunition with this story from the natural understanding of the dogma, because when you look at this, we have an almighty creator who creates a species that he tells them, don't do this, don't do that, knowing they're going to do it. I mean, it's just like me as a parent. When I tell Bella or Andy not to do something, I know already they're going to do it. To some extent, they're going to try this. But I would never send them to hell for disobedience into this thing. So we we're critics up with ammunition, with being ignorant of the text, because as an atheist, I would love to sit back and say, okay, so you have a creator who created human beings knowing they were going to sin, knowing they were going to mess up, and knowing that you were going to have to sacrifice, quote unquote, your son, according to Christian theology, to redeem these people. So, I mean, we see that, they would say that we are crazy with our views of this whole thing, but yet in the same time, when you stand back and look at their view, to me, they're just as crazy as anybody else with that understanding that they have. And it's not in the text at all. I don't know. Now I don't understand how I ever understood this, because it's not in the text. And when you get into the Hebrew, you really don't see any of this in there. But it is what it is.
Yeah, the problem is with interpretations. No one argues over what is Scripture. But they argue over the interpretation. That's why we have so many divisions here. And the Hebrew, and we got to understand, when we translate the Hebrew into English, we're translating it not to English. We're translating it into the culture of English. So the culture is what defines the words. So largely our perception of the what would be called, I would call the official narrative, is the result of our English culture. When I say English culture, I'm talking about Western culture. Is a product of our Western culture. It's not a product of a Hebraic culture. When I say Hebraic, I'm also not saying rabbinical either.
Yeah, because they follow the narrative. They follow the narrative now that it was a sinful event that happened. Now the Kabbalists don't, Chabad and them, and they
No.
don't do it. But your normative, rational Judaism and modern Judaism accepts the narrative that Christianity has handed them, basically, which is
Right.
sad.
Well, and I think this is partially because we want to forget it happened.
Oh yeah,
And I think that's to the serpent's benefit.
right,
Because then we got to say, it's kind of interesting. The serpent shows up and then disappears.
right,
It's really never talked about again until Israel was in a desert and a bronze serpent had to be made,
right,
which is interesting because the word bronze and serpent are very similar words.
right. It is.
Very similar words. So we got to start asking, who is it? And did it really go away?
And a question I have for you, David, is: would this same serpent reappear in the wilderness with the poison vipers biting the people, and they raise the serpent upon the stick? Would this not be the same serpent that we're talking? I'm just asking.
Well, think about it. Just think about it. I'm just saying. I'm not saying that I am right here, but I will say this is something we need to contemplate. The serpent literally goes into hiding,
right,
after that event in chapter 3. And it sort of goes in hiding and never reappears. And then what does Moses say? Take a bronze serpent and put it on a pole. It's almost like saying he isn't hidden, he is there, and recognize it. He's trying to become between you and God.
right.
That's what I think that text. That's what that text is telling me. So are we still dealing with the serpent up to today? I say yes, but what is the serpent? That's another question.
What is the serpent, David?
What is? Well,
plenty theories, so I'm not putting you on the spot. There's plenty theories, so we discuss it.
I think I don't want to go ahead too fast because we're still dealing with the who is it, not necessarily the what is it.
Okay.
I mean, he was trying to capture the soul for himself.
Right.
He wanted to become the new Adam.
Right.
He wanted to replace mankind.
Right.
We were created on the 6th day because we are the pinnacle of creation.
Right.
It does not mean that we are the I got to be careful here because we got to be humble when we say this. We're the pinnacle of creation, but we're not meant to be the creation. What I'm saying is we're a creature. We're not God. We're not meant to replace God. We're supposed to be God's representative. We're not supposed to be arrogant SOB, so to speak. Greatest God's gift to the world. With the ego, we're not. But we are the reason creation took place.
Right.
Oops, hold on. Good floor. So we have a situation where we are meant to correct creation. We're meant to be a new creature and become an asset to creation. We're not acting that way. We're not being that right now because we're following the serpent's ways. So I'll stop right there. I got the floor going in. So
it's okay. Tom,
let's move on.
But come on, give us a story. I know you got a story on this.
Yeah. Well, what I'm thinking of is what about the experience? Your experience keeps coming to me, and where would we be without the experience of these things that we experience? Call it the nefesh, the serpent, whatever it is. But then I respond also to what you had said there, Michael, was that the serpent was lifted up on the pole and then they were healed. And so perhaps there is a lifting up of the experience of the serpent in life or in our lives in order to really experience true healing as to who we really are meant to be and who we are. And so the experience then would be everything. I mean, you could read through that story and say, oh, why did they go through that? Why that? I'm sitting there thinking, well, gee whiz, why not? Why not the experience? Why not the experience? Because how can you really experience true healing without really going through something and maintaining that sense of depth and integrity and that righteousness coming forth without the experience and without the experiencing true healing? So I got to tell you that all my serpent experiences have had healing hidden, as you have said, hidden.
Right.
And as you've said, David, he hadn't gone anywhere. He's still there. He's still hanging around, and then there comes a time when you lift it up and you begin to say, okay, now I can understand what this is all about. Now I know what this experience is about. But boy, when you get bit, that hurts. And the poison spreads through you, until that answer does come, that definition, that understanding of the situation, which is really important and significant.
Well, you bring the word experience to this whole discussion, which is great, because everything that's going on now in this world, all the craziness and we know something's lurking in the shadows.
That's right.
We can't look at the politicians and the permanent leadership that's out there as being the brains behind. They're all the brawn. They're not the brains behind it. Who's the brains?
Mm-hmm.
Is the serpent must still be amongst us, and is the serpent amongst us through people? Meaning people are acting like a serpent. I mean, we know that physically, there are cases where people do get reptilian hearts, 3-chamber hearts. It's rare, but it happens. We can grow tails, reptilian tails, or nubs, little nubs. We can even have scaly skin, which is what a serpent has. So, are we part serpent? I think the answer is yes. But even if we are, which I have no problem with, you have to ask: is the serpent still out there directing? And I'm starting to wonder. Is it still out there? It's still trying to mess things up for us, still trying to destroy the true Adam to replace it with its own Adam?
Well, I think of a story that I've read in one of the Gnostic Gospels, and I don't remember the name of it. I apologize. Y'all can kill me later. But it talks about the fact that Adam and Eve were created, and they're out in the garden. And then all of a sudden they hear this voice, this presence talking to them, and they recognize it as different, but more of a loving, more of a compassionate voice than the creator. And they basically ask, who are you? And basically it says, I am the all, the source. I am God, basically, just to get it down simple. And they said, well, you don't sound like the voice that created us, and as David said, there was Elohim, there was 10 voices. And I'm not saying this is literal at all, as I believe all scripture is allegory. But I'm saying is there's the serpent has a control over us today, that we think that we are living a life now of supplying for our family, building for our future, for our retirement. We're in essence, we are working to pay taxes. We are working for the class. The serpent system, just as that story within the Gnostic story, is a true story. It presents to us a facade over us that we think that we're living. I would say that most in normative religion within Christianity feel like they're having a spiritual lifestyle, living free. They have truth, or maybe within Judaism, they're living truth, or Islam. And I'm not saying they're not to some extent. But when it comes down to it, to the end of the day, we are still under this system, the snake serpent system that David's talking about, that we think's hidden away, or we think that Jesus is taken away, or something like that. Where in turn, it's like the great magician standing over us, covering our eyes, saying, it's all good. It's all good. Life is good. You've got a good job. You're doing really good. And you don't realize that you're slaves at the whole time. You're a slave. We are slaves is what we are. And, if you don't believe that, stop paying your taxes and find out how long you'll make it. Or don't follow the quote unquote mandates that are handed out to you, Tom, as your daughter, as a nurse for so many years. And now all of a sudden doesn't have a job there because she would not wear the mask. So, I mean, if you don't think you're a slave, you're deceived. So, David, I would agree with you. The serpent's not disappeared. He's just hiding underneath the shadows is what he's doing.
I have a question.
Yes.
For both of you, probably for, you guys can flip a coin to see who can answer this, but is the serpent is obviously a creature created by God, right? Is that creature God in disguise to a certain extent, performing a particular task, which would lead us to and how far does a person have to go then in his experience in the whole negativity till a line is drawn in the sand, and then it starts to go back to the other direction, and you get a balance in things. That's a question I have for everybody. Is it God in disguise? I mean, I've read, and Sefer Yetzirah, it's Aleph in everything and everything in Aleph. If that's the case, if God is everything and everything is in God, then how do we interpret this? Just some questions for you scholars to enlighten this old guy.
I'm going to go first because David's going to blow me away on this. Basically, there is nothing but the creator. Non-dualism. There is only the creator. Mm-hmm. There is no devil. There is no demons. There are nothing like that. That's in the upper realm. That's in that's in the God realm and so that's where that's going on. But when we deal within the reality down here, now I believe the Garden of Eden was up in somewhere else in a higher tree of life. It was up in the higher part of the tree. And when this happened, it lowered. In other words, our consciousness was taken from that presence, and we've been brought down here, and we've lost who we are. Madishahu is he was a Jewish rapper singer, but now he's gone secular pretty much. But he did a beautiful song called "King Without a Crown," and it dealt with this issue that we are divinity. Like David says, no, we're not the chief cheese, but yet the spark of the creator is within us. So the serpent, whether being the creator, which ultimately it has to be, he's God over good and evil, it says, we have to figure out the divinity, that we are divine, that we don't need a mediator. We don't need this. We don't need this. We need to wake up and realize that the creator is within us. And the best way to do this is with the tree of life, but I don't have it with me right now. And to me, yes, ultimately everything is God. God said he's over the light, the darkness, the good, the bad. He's over evil, which people cannot seem to handle that too well. So yes, in the perfect scenario in that upper part of the triangle, no, this is not the Mason symbol, y'all. It's part of the tree of life. That is where there is no duality. It's all in self. It's all God. But when it comes down to our level here, we deal with things. And I believe personally, that's what I believe. Yes, ultimately it is the creator. Ultimately it is. The adversary is nothing more. I mean, if you read some Judaism, it tells you that the adversary is to check your will, to see how you're committed, to see your desires, to see what you're trying to really do. What are you trying to do? What's your motivation, basically? So go ahead, David, blow me away.
No, actually, you're doing a great job.
It's from you, so go ahead.
Oh, I thought I recognized that.
No, absolutely, absolutely.
No, you're right. People can't grasp that there's only the creator.
Right.
That's it. There is nothing else, because otherwise you've got a good God and a bad God fighting each other. Yeah, and whenever something's divided, then there has to be something above it.
Right.
Because that division cannot exist apart without something that holds them together above. So you're always going to come to some kind of a singularity. It's like set theory. All numbers are part of a meta set. You talk about prime numbers, you talk about absolute numbers, you talk about negative numbers, rational numbers, and so on and so forth. They're all part of the. Sorry about that.
Okay.
Is it coming through strong or not?
Yeah, you're good.
No,
you're good.
Okay, good. Fine. All right. So whenever you see a duality, there has to be a singularity above it. So. Yes. Yeah, you're right. There is. And how do we produce light, for example? You need positive and negative powers to touch each other.
That's right.
To create an arc, like the arc lamps in movie theaters. In the old days, when they have arc lamps, that was what produced the light to put onto the actors so the audience can see them. It's an arc, but you need positive and negative to create that arc. So how do you transform the physical realm that we're in, the darkness that we're part of? Well, you have to force contention back and forth. And that's the only way you can raise to light up the dark, to raise up the physical and to bring down the spiritual. So we have to have this back and forth. So yes, the serpent is following exactly what it's meant to do. It forced the soul to come down in chapter 2 to touch man.
That's right.
In chapter 3. If the serpent wasn't there, the fruit would have never been eaten and we would have never had the soul. But like I said, the serpent wanted that fruit soul for itself.
Right.
But the woman said, okay, I'll eat it. And she did not hand it to the serpent. Because we're talking about spirituality here, she handed it to Adam. And what's interesting is in the Hebrew, this is not male and female eating the fruit. This is the female and the soul of Adam eating the fruit.
Right.
So so Eve, that's where her name was changed. A life giver. She gave life to us. Because okay, I'll eat the fruit. Here, Adam, eat. Wait, I was going to eat that. Nope. Here, Adam. She won the battle. She beat him. I'm done.
And Tom, and also in Gnosticism too, that Sophia, they said that Sophia had deceived and went up there and took that fruit and did the same thing that he's talking about. And that's what Sophia did to save her children, which is us, to make sure that the serpent didn't get it.
I've got a picture here for you and a question.
Uh-oh.
And I know you guys about that. I've got the answers too, but I just thought I'd ask you some more. So I keep picturing it's two sides to one coin. Two sides to one coin, but only one coin. My question is who's flipping the coin to see which end it's going to land on? Oh, three sides to one coin. All right, David, that's your key.
I am a numismatist. That's somebody who studies coinage. I don't just collect coins. I study them. And we are told, and the people who really are the graders of a coin and really try to understand coinage, say there's three sides to every coin. There's the obverse, the reverse, and the edge.
Okay.
That is three.
That's good.
It's a Trinity.
That's good.
There you go. Right, Mike.
So David, who's flipping the coin?
But the point is, the edge is as much as part of the coin as the obverse and reverse.
That's right.
In fact, without the edge, without the middle, there is no obverse reverse.
No. It holds it together.
Isn't that something? That's good. That's good.
So that's what that serpent brought to the picture is, okay, save the soul. Now, what did we get from it? Because Abel was killed, but Cain went on. It's interesting how the subject of Cain becomes very repetitive and quite commonly spoken through, or descendants of Cain, even in Israel,
right?
The nation of Israel itself, for redemption. Well, it's proposed that there is part serpent in Cain.
Right, serpent seed.
So we have to also understand that mankind's existed for millions of years, not 6,000 years, millions of years. What we've had for the last 6,000 years is a soul. We didn't have that soul before.
Right.
Now we do.
Can you hear me okay?
Nuh-uh.
Okay.
Yeah, we hear you. Yeah, we can hear you.
So here's a question. Here's a question just for conversation. Who flips the coin to see who's flipping the coin to see which end it's going to land on, the heads or the tails,
or on the edge.
or on the edge.
On
I'd like
rare
to see-
instances, it can, but it's very rare. But it can land on the edge.
I say we do, Tom.
Okay. Yeah.
I say we do. I say in decisions, when the Torah says that the life and death is in your tongue, and if you do these things, you're blessed. If you not do these things, you're cursed. I believe we get what we get in life by decisions and stuff that we make. And the thing is we want to blame God for this, and we want to blame God for this. And in reality, our choices dictate our path many times. And as you said earlier, that's not a negative, because those experiences make us draw closer to the Creator. So that's not a negative, but yet in our life it seems negative. But yet at the same time, it's bringing us closer to Him. So my answer is that we flip the coin ultimately. We choose what we're going to do.
Well, it's like a pendulum. You push it too far to the left, it goes far to the right. And that's the issue we have. The left has gotten so far to the left.
Right.
That what I'm fearing is, don't get me wrong, I want them out of the picture. But the reality is that pendulum's going to shoot way back, and they're starting something called neoconservatism that's starting up. It's going to go all the way here, and it's going to go back, and each time it goes to the extremes, and then the extremes narrow in to eventually we're at a balance.
Right.
And that's the key. Are we going to go way too far to the right next? It's a very strong possibility.
Right.
It's definitely going to be at least right of center, if nothing else.
Right. And that's the same with our life and the decisions that we make. We seem to always hit extremes. We never stay in the balance of the middle. We always go crazy right or left. And that's why I believe in sanity and depression and OCDs, these things, because we're not able to balance our thoughts. We're not able to balance our emotions, and we're battling ourselves. We're in a good mood one moment, bad mood the next moment, and we're not able to center ourselves where we need to be many times. Sure, there's times we need to go to extremes. If somebody's attacking your family, you better go extreme defending them. But in the most part, we need to be balanced and not react out of emotions. And that's another show we need to do next, is emotions. We don't need to step out in emotion. We need to step out in understanding. To me, that's the most important thing. And that's where we, as a world of religion and politics and stuff, we cannot come together sensibly in the middle. We have to bring our extremity with us. We have to bring our fanatics. We have to bring all this stuff. And until we come to a point that we can come to the center and middle, I don't think we'll ever get together, right or left, to be honest with you. It's not going to happen. By the way, Reagan was a master of that. Reagan was a master of bringing the sides together.
Exactly.
And Clinton, to a point, after Clinton's second term, he learned, I guess, from Reagan of how to, after all the sexual, but he was able to bring the balance together, and he got everybody working together, but since that time, we've not had any political parties working together from that point on.
Yeah, they ended around 2000. That election between Gore and Bush Jr. is where the cooperation between them stopped.
Stopped completely.
Right, exactly. So you're right. The balance is what we're supposed to after, but it's also the goal of the balance. Unfortunately, sometimes we forget that if we take extremes, for example, we take one side says accept anybody,
right,
and then we got the other sides accept nobody.
Right.
The reality is we had to accept some.
Right.
So now we got to say, well, who do we accept? Right. Now you got to come up with rules and thoughts and ideas. People just don't want to think through that stuff. They rather just choose a side,
right,
and do whatever that side says. They don't want to try to say, well, it's like the rule of law. You have one person steal a car and runs off with it and destroys the car, gets caught, and is like, wow, I had a good time. That was good. I'm going to do that again when I get out. Well, that person needs a 2x4.
Yeah.
Hit it straight across the head there, to get him to stop thinking that way. He needs extreme pain. Where you have another guy would come through and say, I did it, and boy, was I stupid.
Yeah.
That person just needs a slap on the wrist. He's done.
Right.
He's not going to repeat it.
So.
It's just like a story that her World War II pilot, fighter pilot, was with his B-17s, and he was trying. There was a B-17 that got beat up pretty bad by the flak and German fighters.
Right.
So he was escorting this one home, and he decided to relax a little bit.
Right.
And in the middle of that, German fighters came in and shot that bomber down.
Right.
He said he regretted that so much. He said those guys lost their lives because I took it easy.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you have to. But what he said was, I will give my life the next time.
Right.
To prevent that from happening.
Right.
Now, who would I want escorting me home? I would want him, because I know he won't. I know he won't take a break. He'll be watching my six all the time, making sure that no one's going to get to me.
Right.
Even if it means his death. That's the guy I want. But we in our society, you falter once and say, oh, you're bad, you're evil, I don't ever want you. No. Did he learn from it? Yes, he learned from it. Did he change for the better? Yes, he did. So, you know, our focus has to be different. It can't be. The focus is what gives us our balance,
right?
Not rules.
Right. Okay, guys, we want to bring this in. We're at 41 minutes. So, yeah, well, we need to. We need to kind of bring this in now. Not close it, but we need to start bringing it down to ending this thing.
Tom, you're good at that. You digest everything.
Give
us a story. Give us a story.
I've got another story to tell you. This is a personal story.
It.
How did I know?
Okay, it's coming. Hang on now. You better have another shot, David. No, this is you know, you talk about reading the scriptures and this kind of thing. And when I found out that a family member had taken, you know, what they shouldn't have taken, and it was very grievous, along with grandchildren and stuff. And so I thought, well, darn, you know, and I found myself getting angry at the powers that be, that are. And so I thought, well, is there any, and I was talking to Shem, to God, to Gitchi Banadu, to Shankwateesan, you know, I mean, the different names for the one. And I thought, well, is there any hope then? What happens if my family members die because of these choices that they make? And I felt Hashem was telling me, can you still trust me? Can you trust my process and involvement with everyone, with the whole thing, even with the serpent involved in all of this kind of thing? And I thought, well, do I have a choice? And he said, well, you do have a choice, but it'll affect the way you relate to the whole thing too. And so I did. And I said, well, is this really you talking? Tell me something from the Bible. He says, well, you shall not bear false witness against your neighbor. I said, bear false witness against my neighbor? I'm telling you the truth. These people are crazy. They're nuts. And I felt what he was telling me. Yeah, but you don't see them as I see them. I see the long-term goal. I see where it's all headed. You don't. You're looking at things right now and in the limitations of your finite existence in this particular dimension and realm. And I thought, okay. And do you know that I now cannot go against those powers that be and complain, you know, this and that, you know, and all that kind of thing, because there's something there that's changed in my own heart. So now I find myself praying for them, asking Hashem, change their hearts, you know. Do them good in the long run. Allow them to see as you've allowed me to see. And so that's a personal testimony. And I know it's a little bit radical in terms of the interpretation of that thing, but that really hit me like a ton of bricks. And so it released an anger and a bitterness inside of me, and it gave me more of a wholesome stance and a wholesome perspective. And that's the end of my story.
I like the way he ended that. And ultimately, Tom, that is correct. In the end, we can sit here and as David was talking about the, you know, one side or the other, I'm seeing the same thing happening. He's talking about even the right are going crazy, to the left's going crazy. Everybody's going this way, but nobody's working together. And ultimately, these people have been in charge from the very beginning. They didn't just take charge, the powers to be. They've been in charge forever. And you're right. It's going to take a major change for this thing to fall out. If it ever does, I don't know. that we are going to see any kind of victory from this. But I know that keeping on harping on it and keeping on being negative is not going to help in any way also. So I would agree with your story there. Very good story, Tom. Very good.
Well, I would say let's take, let's say 20 to 30% of the population, and tell them the left and the right, 15%, 20% each side, kick them out.
Right.
The rest of us will have no problem falling in the middle.
Right.
Yeah, very true.
Just get rid of that. And I don't even think it needs to be 40%. In all likelihood, it's only maybe 2 to 4%.
Right.
Get rid of the far left leaders, the far right leaders. And I think, honestly, the rest of us would just fall right into the middle, into closer to the middle. And I think we would be able to cooperate. We don't need AOCs around.
Right.
She's a nutso.
Yeah.
She's her brain's not functioning right. It's very obvious. Don't let them rule. Push them aside.
Right.
I know I just picked on one side as an example, but we do have nuts on all sides.
Right.
But we just get rid of them, everything will fall right into the middle.
Right.
But it's still, you had to say, did the serpent do its purpose? Yes, it did, because without Eve seeing the need and seeing that the evil, so to speak, she wouldn't have made the decision she made to bring life to us.
Right.
That's right. Yeah.
That's good. Yeah. Well, I appreciate both of y'all, and this is a topic we actually can pick up again and bring up more on the garden and go more through Genesis 1 through 3. This is not an end all. So I'm glad that we had this conversation about the serpent, because I think people need to think outside of the box sometimes, and the narrative just doesn't work. It doesn't work according to Scripture. It doesn't work according to anything. So I think it's good to break dogma sometime and let people see other views. And David, of course, I definitely appreciate your view on this, and Tom, your story's always very good. And until next time, we thank you, and shalom, shalom.
Shalom, shalom.
Shalom, shalom.
Hold on, I'm going to say one more goodbye. I've got to do this before we go. I got to. Hold on. That just you have to leave the show with a smile, and that gives me a smile, and it makes me think of Tom during the week. So I love that. I appreciate it so much.
By the way, I stripped the audio out of that video.
Did you really?
So if you want to copy just the audio, I have it.
No, I got it. I got the video. I've got it. I got it.
I got the video too, but I wanted to. I'm adding that to my ending of my videos.
You need to do it on the beginning. That thing, dun, 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 have that going on while that's going on.
Get dizzy.
Yeah. All right. Till next time. Thank you so much. And y'all have a fantastic week. Shalom, shalom. Thank you.
Shalom, shalom.
Shalom.